most welcome. Long, long ago, way up high, in clouds, far, far away, a family of gods are in dispute. Top god, Zeus, is confronted by his daughter Athena. Now, what can I say about Athena? She is more majestic than beautiful. She enjoys keeping up appearances, and so is always very well turned out in a nice hat.
As a matter of fact, it's not a hat, it's a helmet. Because I'm also a warrior goddess, so watch yourselves. Oh, Zeus, my father! This is the plot bit, by the way. This is the plot. For many years, you have abandoned Odysseus with that trollop Calypso. He understands not why you impede his return home to his family. Do you know, it's not that easy being a goddess. I said to my worshippers, and there are many, I said, look, I said, all I want is a nice dry sherry. But no, what do they offer you instead? One human sacrifice after another. You can't get those stains out the carpets. I do enjoy being in this production of the Big Odyssey because I get a chance to work with John Hurt, who's playing the part of Zeus. That is when he can remember his cue.
Oh, sorry enough. Is it my luck? Odysseus has failed to learn the lessons of the gods.
But Odysseus is one of the great heroes of the Trojan War and deserves to be reunited with his wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus, who he saw but once as a baby. You have punished him enough.
Very well. I shall act. Not only shall I act, I shall overact. Say, Odysseus is free to return home, but this is his last chance to understand the purpose of his journey.
The gods then set in motion the reuniting of Odysseus with his family. Zeus sends a messenger off to Calypso's island for Odysseus, and Athena goes to visit Telemachus, who has seen many years pass since his father left for war. Telemachus, well, he's on the brink of manhood, but hasn't quite got there yet. No, it's true. I refuse to grow up. My therapist says it's the result of maternal dominance. you should meet my maternal dominance. She said to me the other day, she said, Telemachus, she said, why can't you be more like your friend Oedipus? You're way ahead of me tonight. It's great. It's very unusual. Normally it's me who's premature. No, the truth is, my therapist, he said, to my mother, I become both son and husband. I said, well, that's frightening, That's as bad as me marrying my own daughter. In his father's absence, Athena has been mentor to Telemachus, disguising herself as a mortal character, strangely enough called Mentor. Knowing the son is coming of age, a mentor character sends the son on a search for his father. A father who, for all he knows, may even be dead. Does this sound familiar? Well, it should, because George Lucas nicked it for Star Wars.
Seek out your father, must you? Yes. I like Fuzzy Bear, do I?
So, Telemachus' quest begins with old family friend of Odysseus, a man called Nestor. Now Nestor is warm and snug. He's a sort of living tea cosy. And as Telemachus discovers more about his father, so do we.
Your father has many identities. At one time he was both a vet and a taxidermist, which meant no matter what happened, you always got your dog back. The Trojan horse, now that was his idea. I was against it at first. I said you can't leave something that valuable on the doorstep and then just run off. He said we can. And one day they'll call it parcel force. You see, your father showed us that winning a battle is a bit like having a boiled egg for breakfast. If it's done right, you only need a couple of soldiers. A principle I've applied to my life way beyond just boiled eggs. So then, your father. Clever. Yes, he's clever, but not always wise. And sometimes a bit full of it.
So, Telemachus has discovered more about his father, but he hasn't yet found his father. Meanwhile, Hermes, messenger of the gods, has arrived on Calypso's island with a message from Zeus. Sorry, one or two members of my cast are very difficult, and they may need a bit of an ego massage to get them out on stage. I'm going to have to do that introduction. Hermes, messenger of the gods, is played by Kenneth Williams. The magnificent Kenneth Williams.
Yes, 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 but I think we all know I am magnificent. You see, therein lies the problem, you see. Because if I am magnificent, why have I only been given one line? Me, you know, of course I do my one line. I do my one line very well. Oh yes, I can on, you see, I can on. And I say to the nymph Calypso, oh she's a nymph, oh nymph of Phaeacia, that's from the actual Greek. I say to her, I say release Odysseus, for it is the will of Zeus that he ends his banishment and returns to Ithaca.
It's a nine, I'm going to say it, no.
Thou teach Nallon here to cast an artiste, such as myself, as a one-line messenger boy.
Well, I could always get Dale Winton.
Release Odysseus, for it is the will of Zeus, and I'm going to build. We return, yes, return home to Ithaca, yes, return, come on, yes, return.
You join me here, close to Calypso's traditional mating style. The male Odysseus is an unwilling sexual partner, partly because the mating session has now been going on for 7 solid years, mainly because Calypso is the spitting image of Margaret Thatcher. Now, listen very carefully. We can hear her reaching the end of her sexual climax.
That was a most enjoyable orgasm. Mr. Odysseus, please pay attention when I'm talking down to you. Mr. Odysseus, I would very, very much appreciate some more intercourse before you go. Before I go? Go where? Odysseus is the biggest part, so I'm playing it myself. Before I go where? It's not a bad impression of me, that is it. I've done my best, you know. I can't do it, you make me laugh. I've never done that before. Oh yes. Before I go where? Oh, didn't I mention it? You are free to return home. Alternative, I will make you immortal. And you can stay with me forever.
ever and ever.
Odysseus decides, no. Immortality isn't life, it isn't living. And so he offers his fond farewell to Calypso. And he finally sets sail on his final part of his journey home. A journey which began 10 years ago at the end of the Trojan War. Once at sea, he dreams of his beloved Penelope. And not for long, for soon he encounters his arch enemy, the ocean god Poseidon. And taking the part of that angry and often incoherent god, we have John Prescott.
Now listen, you lot, listen. First, let me never try to say this. I'm in charge of the sea. We know that sea is Labour Party policy, especially when it comes to transport. So if there's one person who can stop Odysseus getting home, it's me.
Now Odysseus, Poseidon is arch enemy to Odysseus, and has been for many, many years. And not for the first time, he creates a storm to impede him. A mountainous wave crashes upon the lone sailor. In a second, an unblinking Odysseus is beneath the water. Above, the winds crack his vessel, and now it too joins him beneath the dark wine of the sea. Oh, for too long Poseidon's depths keep them both, but a will of Odysseus to live wins out, and once more he is above the waves. The brine is spat, and cold but welcome air fills his lungs. He grabs upon a crag, but in one foaming blast of ocean his hands are wrenched away, and strips of skin are torn from his fingers, as thick as the fractured pieces of stone that squid rip from rock when they are severed from their lair. This time, as Odysseus gasps for life, it could be his last, as he is taken by the sea. Meanwhile, back on Ithaca, Penelope is having some troubles of her own. For many years, the house of Odysseus has been taken over by dozens of suitors queuing up to marry Penelope, leaving Odysseus to be dead. These suitors try to smooth talk her with a lot of smart. It's a Greek version of our favourite Saturday night TV game show.
Oh, and welcome to a very special suitors edition of life. Now Penelope, look, Penelope. We've got some very odd-looking fellas for you. They want to entice you to choose them by giving you a little gift. Oh, but don't worry, children. But after your money, not your body. And to prove it, here's suitor number 1, Graham Norton.
Me all looking. Me all looking. It's true, I went to, never been true a word. I went to the Oracle at Delphi. I asked the gods to make me look beautiful. I was there for 5 hours. Just the estimate. Nevertheless, I am giving Penelope, I am giving her diamond diamante bracelet because, well, I want it to death.
Oh, now, Penelope, let's hear from suitor number 2. It's that sinister bloke from the black and white movies, Peter Lorre.
Well, first of all, I should like to say Penelope that if she surrenders to my request, I promise never again will I turn myself into Speedy Gonzales, which is a very strange habit of mine. Nevertheless, I too have a gift for Penelope. It is 1,000 pieces of gold, and if Penelope wants, she can also have the teeth that once went with them.
Oh, now then, let's see if suitor number 3 can go one better. It's the man who'll promise you anything, Tony Blair.
Can I say to you, Penelope, in fact, can I say to all of you? Can I say to all of you, I want to give you
better rainbows for your children. Nicer bluebells for the elderly.
And, as the Easter bunny said to me, Tony, if you really want to give people what they want, just please give up. Oh, well, now, Penny, oh, she's dead posh, is this woman. I better give her a full name. Penelope Keith, we all remember you as the well-to-do woman in the good life. But with these fellas eating you out of house now, you'll soon have nothing left. So I think you should choose yourself a new husband pretty quick. Well, if that is the choice I have, the answer is no, and certainly not. First, you were quite unspeakably common. And as for Tony Blair, far too over-familiar. The sort of man that would call John the Baptist Jack. I should leave my choice of husband until my son comes home. So Penelope is no fool. She accepts all their gifts without promising anything in return. A very modern sort of woman. Meanwhile, back at sea, Odysseus is falling further beneath the ocean. In his mind's eye is his beloved Penelope. If death is upon him, at least he will die with her in his heart. But now is not the time nor the place for death. For one of the great features of the Odyssey is hope. Hope now comes in the form of a glittering spectacle.
Hello, darling! Hello, darling. I'm the sea creature I am. And I'm here to help little Odysseus. I'd get out of those clothes if I were you, darling. They're dragging you down. But they're very, very unfashionable. Now, I'm a bit of a dramatic device, I know, but I thought, I'm very dramatic. And I also have an interesting device, I do. I suspect you have an interesting device. And by the look of your face, it's in use right now, is it not? Oh, I'm not too, I do. But why am I here? Well, why are any of us here? That's a very deeply philosophical sort of question for a very deeply philosophical sort of show. Now, I'm here to help little Odysseus by pointing him to a civilized land. Obviously not Australia. In Greek times, my homeland wasn't the world's largest open prison it is today. No. Now I'm here to point Odysseus to a civilized land called Phaeacia.
And so, with renewed hope, Odysseus strips off his clothes, swims to the Phaeacian shore, and quickly falls into a deep sleep. When dawn rises, touching the east with her crimson fingers, Athena arrives, knowing that there is much work to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the audience participation participation, because I want you all to imagine that you are young maidens of Phaeacia. You see, according to Homer, you live an idyllic existence, which means you've never seen a naked man before. According to Homer, dear, according to Homer. And therefore, I have cast a spell on you, so that when you see Odysseus awake, played here by the totally naked Steve, he will appear to you as if he is a Greek god. I realise we're pushing the magic of theatre, but we'll have a go.
Now we're going to skip this bit. Thank you for the Uber. The rather excitable young maidens of Phaeacia give Odysseus a cloak and then take him to meet the king and queen of Phaeacia. And since I thought this is a British production, we have a bit of merchant ivory style casting here. And so, as king and emperor, I give you Sir Derek Jacobi.
Pray, stranger, what is your name? You are most welcome to our shores. Pray tell me your name.
Odysseus. Odysseus remains silent. It is not quite in his nature to be that open, and now is not the time nor the place to reveal his identity. But the Queen, in a cameo performance by Dame Maggie Smith, no, she cannot remain silent.
No, if he doesn't want to talk, why should he? Personally, I can't bear people who talk. We all know those of a loquacious disposition, who prattle on endlessly but never actually say anything. They're the worst. The worst. It's always the ones who prattle on endlessly, who do so in the most peculiar sort of voice.
I think what my wife is trying to say is that you are most welcome to our shores. It is the prime directive of Zeus himself that we receive and honour strangers, the refugees of fate. Are you a refugee of fate?
Now, this is a question Odysseus cannot ignore. But as I say, it's not within his nature to be that open. And so Odysseus does what he always does in this situation. He puts on a funny voice and invents a character. And to fit in to the genteel setting, he chooses the urbane tongue of James
Mason, your majesty, I am but a mere traveller, who seeks conveyance by whatever means to my home. My name and history is of no consequence, but have no fear, for I avoid and abhor violence. Stranger, we Phaeacians are a cultured people. We know only of war through poetry, and of combat through sport, and we are pleased that you are here, for now we have an excuse for both. Indeed, we shall have ourselves a festival.
Hello, Prentice. Hello. Hello, how are you? I'm the herald. I'm the herald of the games. First we're going to have some all-in wrestling. But I say if it's all in, why wrestle? I'm getting a leg football. Hang on. Portsmouth nil, Liverpool nil. That's ridiculous. Even I could score at Portsmouth. I thank you, but we begin on the turf.
Good afternoon and welcome to the first chariot race of the day. It's the Ben-Hur handicap. It's a handicap because Ben-Hur hasn't been born yet. We're under starter's orders. I've had the Thomas Lodge and the Peterborough. And they're off. And as Medea slowly goes round the bend, it's Achilles heel from Midas touch, Ajax super clean, and other Greek words still in use today. But now we have a new leader as Murray Walker will
Because there goes Eddie Irvine! And if Eddie Irvine wins this race, he will become the great British champion. And if he doesn't win, he will become the sad Irish loser. Either way, I have decided to turn myself into a dialect who will be exterminated.
A young sporting hero of Phaeacia comes up to the stranger and offers his post-match comments.
Well, I thought it was a very interesting game of 2 halves. In the first half, I was David Beckham, but unfortunately in the second half, I turned into Ashley on Coronation Street, all matching up, busting me foot, bugger. I want to ask the stranger is, why does he not partake of the games? Is he a man or a moose?
Odysseus ignores this mistreatment of the vowel, and because his honour has been slighted, Odysseus picks up the nearest thing to hand, an oval leather wine pouch, and kicks it as hard as he can.
British gone way, way up into the air now, and as he chases after it, there's a row of four at the back that says you won't get past me. Oh my word, he's gone round them now, and he's underneath the ball, and he catches it on the run, and he places it just beyond the line. Well, you know, I don't know what you'd call all that, but whatever it was a good try.
And now to celebrate, the crowd celebrate the champion. And after the games always comes the feast. And after the feast comes the singer of songs. But we know her more simply as Barbra.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this time of great crisis, when there's so much pain and suffering in the world, I have decided to add to it by singing a song about a Greek hero who has suffered deeply. Who knows, he may even be somewhere out there listening. People like Odysseus.
At this moment, Odysseus stops hard from singing. No one is going to tell Odysseus' story, but Odysseus himself. Oh, what a story. You know, the war hero and his magical journey home. Yes, it's the deer hunter meets the Wizard of Oz. And Odysseus really wants to tell his story because, you see, Odysseus loves storytelling. And he also loves doing all the voices. He's a human comedian. And so, Odysseus, the world's first impressionist, begins to tell his tale. The world's first flashback. His audience is the king and the queen. Your Majesties, after I more or less single-handedly won the Trojan War, with my brilliant idea of the Trojan horse, I set sail for home. I needed a few provisions, so I began my journey in Ismarus, with a spot of looting and piracy. You know, it was all in good fun, as I told the pillaged city, in my most endearing of voices, "Good morning, Vietnam!" Oh, sorry there. Oh, yes, but the principal just said, yes, Paris. You know, we raided your homes, you know. Then we took your wine. Then we took your women. Then we took your women that wined. Yes. Oh, but the wise, you know, the wise, as we like to say in the military briefing, a degree of collateral damage. But you know what we really mean is your son's roadkill. You know, when this virus, I said I'm sorry, and I did it in my sickly, sincere, Oscar-winning, smiley sort of way. Thank you, boys. So, everything's all right now, but this virus, never forget. Good morning, Vietnam. Nanu. After we left Ismarus, we hit heavy fog. And in the mystical clouds of the ocean lurks Scylla, a magical, legendary sea monster. I knew Scylla would devour 6 of my men, 1 for each of its heads. But only when Scylla made its move did the 6 heads declare themselves, each in its movie villainous voice.
I feel your anger. Come over to the dark side of my tummy.
Closer. I'll eat your liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
No, Mr. Bond, I do not expect you to talk, I expect you to die.
It's supper time. Here's Johnny!
Buy a spoon to cut out his heart because it'll hurt more, you twit. The rubber slippers, I want those rubber slippers. Well, double you, my pretty little dog, too. Melting.
Scylla slowly disappeared into the fog. My next adventure was in the land of the one-eyed Cyclops, and since this is a world of unreal creatures, I will stage it using the voices of cartoon characters. When I, the crafty Odysseus, present myself, it shall be as that great trickster Bugs Bunny. And the Cyclops, that all-consuming bulk of nature, will be played by Homer Simpson. But to set the scene, we have crewman Wallace and his trusty canine friend.
Cracking cave, Grommy. No, don't do that with your egg. That's a giant rotunda of cheese, not a lamppost. Still, I don't think whoever lives here could mind if we just had a taste of their cheese. Crewman Fred Flintstone started already.
This way, Barney, there shall be plenty of food.
So overcome by our feeding frenzy were we that we failed to notice the arrival of the giant Cyclops. The Cyclops puts a boulder against the exit of the cave, turns round, and with his one big eye, sees us all.
Hey, wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. Come home from work and what do you find? If your mouth's eating your favourite raspberry-flavoured donut. What do? Three things. Stay calm. More luscious raspberry-flavoured donut. But then, eat Mickey Mouse.
I'm a Disney character, so I stay cheerful, even when I'm being chewed alive by a one-eyed monster.
Ah, Lord Disney. Pure sugar with no nutritional value. You're next, you pesky rabbit.
What's up, Doc? Gee, Mr. One-Eyed Monster, I know I'm supposed to offer you a gift, but you know, the truth is, I ain't got a thing for you, except some wine.
Oh, goody. What's your name?
My name is Nobody. Yeah, that's right. My name is Nobody.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nobody. I shall eat you last.
Oh, I do not tell the Cyclops. The Greek wine must always be diluted. Quickly he falls asleep. In the corner of the cave, I notice a felled olive tree and hatch a clever plan. While the Cyclops sleeps, we shape the tree into a sharpened spear, and in the morning, when dawn rises from her crimson bed, we thrust the spear into the eye of the Cyclops. He wakes with a blinding scream. He fumbles across the cave and pulls back the boulder to feel the warm light of day he will never see again. He shouts,
Nobody has blinded me! Nobody has blinded me!
his fellow Cyclops hear his cry and laugh. Well, if nobody has blinded you, why all the noise? Quickly, we escape to our boats. I then shout and call to the Cyclops, my real name is Odysseus, remember it well. The Cyclops, although blind, hurls a giant boulder in the direction of my boasting, sinking many of my ships. Oh, well, these things happen. Nevertheless, the Cyclops then calls upon his father, the ocean god Poseidon, to create a storm to impede us, which takes us many miles off distance to the land of Ithaca, the palace of Circe, the backdrop of my next adventure. My crew rush to enjoy the hospitality of Circe, but I am more cautious, and since I now face her witchcraft, the gods send me a gift, and this gift is hopefully brought by Hermes, messenger of the gods.
Yes, well, you see, Steve, what's his face here? You had to bring me back, because you recognise my name, you're very good. You're very good, yeah, you're very good. In fact, you're so good, I don't know why you're not on television. You're very good, you're very, very good. Excuse me, look,
I'm not Steve, I'm Odysseus, and to be honest, there's nobody out there except a king and a queen.
I think you'll find there's more than one out there tonight. Yeah, see, it's not a bad show, is it? You're enjoying it. Not a bad show, is it? You know, it's not as good as a book. Anybody get regulars?
comes out next. Really? Have you written the original Greek? Well, shut your cake over then. No, I'll tell the great young one. You see, what's happened, you see, Circe has been providing for the sailors. Some people get over that. But not lucky for them, because her food has turned them all into pigs, proving there's no such thing as a free lunch. But my potion here has made Steve, or Odysseus, or whosoever who believes himself to be, immune from Circe's magic, but he must still resist her powers of seduction. And by the way, I should warn you that Circe is played by Widdecombe. In PVC. And leathers.
Can I say to you? Can I say to you? That you have been a very naughty boy. That as a punishment for you being a man, you will now bend down your force and go oink, 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 and I smack your body out.
Thank you, but no thank you. I'm not into that sort of thing. I'm not a Tory MP.
Well, you have successfully resisted my temptation of kinky sex, and you deserve reward. So I shall return all your men to human form, and you can then sail on. My advice is to sail on to the land of the dead.
I took Circe's advice, and I sailed on to the land of the dead. You wish to say something, Your Majesty?
It seems to me, Odysseus, it seems to me the gods are playing a very interesting game. Clearly, if you make an error, you find yourself lost and unable to progress. But collect your gifts, use them wisely, and you can move on. I think if children were ever to play this gift, I would call it Nintendo. I don't expect me to play it. I'm still on Sonic the Hedgehog at the moment.
No, it's a fascinating story, Odysseus, and it's really interesting. It's just that Widdecombe, she is ugly, isn't she? And I realize she can't help it, but she could stay in.
If I may continue, Your Majesty. Before entering Hades, Circe had advised me that I must make an offering to the gods. Rarely had I ever done this, but luckily a spirit appeared before me in a square black box saying,
Hello and welcome to Delia Smith's How to Sacrifice. The important thing to remember when stuffing your sacrificial ram is always remember to kill it first. Unless, of course, the kind of stuffing you are giving your ram is all part of that sacred ritual. And do keep the entrails because they make a lovely stock.
Sacrifice offered, I enter Hades. And since we are no longer in the land of the living, I thought some of our best loved classical actors of the past would play our absent friends. And so, John Gielgud will give us his Achilles. But first, Sir Lawrence Olivier as Agamemnon. Agamemnon, the Greek general of the Trojan War, well, he met an unfortunate end within moments of his arrival back on Greek soil.
Indeed, that is true. On arriving home in Argos, I refer to the Greek city-state and not the high street store that mockingly bears its name. I was brutally murdered by my wife, Clytemnestra. Her murderous dagger, or rather like my voice, went up and then down, and then up and then down, until I had stopped and paused long enough to milk my death.
Next spoke Achilles. Your Majesties, his presence and his words were unexpected, for Achilles had died a hero's death in Troy, and so by tradition should have been with the gods.
Oh, my friend Odysseus. My friend Odysseus. Offer me no winning words about death. For I would rather be a slave on earth, or indeed a peasant, whose only living toil is to plough the dirt, than rule down here among the breathless dead. Remember this, Odysseus. Carpe diem. Carpe diem. Live. Oh, live every moment.
On leaving Hades, we are forced to navigate the crashing rocks and resist the siren voices which tempt men to their deaths. Only Jason and his Argonauts had ever achieved this task. My men looked to me for guidance. I told them to put wax in their ears, but one man must listen to the voices. So I tie myself to the mast and make myself hear the siren song that entices me to sweet death.
Feel the birds by crashing at sea, smashing and dashing your bones close to me. Feel for the birds, that's what you'll be, scattered and splattered. So come die for me.
I remember the words of Achilles, and we say on. My final encounter is with Aeolus, the god of winds. Aeolus possessed a voice of many changing directions and rhythms, personified by the actor Leonard Rossiter. Very, very well, Odysseus. And I'm going to reward you by blowing the north, south, and east winds into this bag, leaving only the west wind to give you the Godspeed back to Ithaca. Let this arrangement be just between ourselves, and do take care of the bag of winds. Within 9 days of that single prevailing wind, we are in sight of our homeland. We can even see our kinfolk tending fires on the beaches. The crewmen, moral and hardy, are suspicious of my bag, believing it to contain treasure I intend to keep for myself. Ollie, I've been thinking, if we sell the treasure, we'd have enough money to buy food. And then we could eat and never be hungry.
Tell me that again.
Well, if we were treasure, we'd eat the money and sell the food and always be hungry.
Just give me the bet. Oh, I don't think you should give me the bet, because I'm an awful feeling it really goes, this'll go.
The four winds crash together, and their never-ending blather is like a pack of game show hosts, each competing with the other. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bruce Forsyth's playing card night. Who wants to be millionaire tonight? Thomas Converse. Points made, prizes, points made, prizes. And she's on £32,000. Higher. But we don't want to give her that. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Nice. Get all the wiki slink. Goodbye. All the wiki slink. Goodbye. The result was that the winds totally destroyed all my ships and men drowned, and I had to go and face the full wrath of Zeus.
Odysseus, never again will you be careless with a gift from the gods. For I will now banish you to the island of Agadia and Calypso, and there you shall stay until I see fit.
Your Majesties, that concludes my adventures. I realise now, I failed the gods, I failed my men, I failed myself, and most of all, I have failed my wife. And although I recently left Calypso's island, the final stage of my journey cannot be completed, and my story ends here.
No, Odysseus, you have not failed. Yes, you began as a barbarian, but humanity now lives in you because you know you have done wrong. And humanity, after all, is only human. But we learn from our mistakes and we go out and we try again.
No, he's right. He's right. And your story, Odysseus, is not ended. For it is in the telling of our tale that we always see its message. And what I see in you is that your human heart is alive for the love of Penelope, and there is not a god that would not give up Mount Olympus for that. Husband, we will complete his journey. We will give him ships and send him home to Ithaca.
And so, with the help of the Phaeacians, Odysseus finally arrives on home shores. Ever cautious, he disguises himself as a beggar, and walking through the village, he overhears the local gossips discussing the recent events of Ambridge. Ambridge? Can't end Ambridge.
Oh dear, I'm very, very worried because here comes Clary Grundy with important news of offstage actions.
Oh, Mr. Willie, it's Telemachus. He's come home, but he ain't found his dad. Today is the day Penelope will have to choose her new husband. Oh, I hope it ain't my Eddie.
So do I, Clary, so do I. And now it's Bert Fry and Ruth Archer with more expositional information. Miss Penelope will choose as her new husband the man who can perform two tasks.
That's right, Bert. It's Odysseus' old bow. Each four has to string it head to toe and then shorten out all low through an oar in 12 axes lined up so in a row.
Oh no indeed, and I've got some even worse news for you because yes, our family turned into Frankie Howard. Wait, open your teeth. Put your teeth now down. Oh dear Peggy, how's it all going to end?
So, knowing the urgency of the present situation, Odysseus runs to his home, still in disguise. Penelope welcomes the beggar. Before retiring to her bedchamber, she instructs her lady's maid to bathe the feet of the stranger. This dotty old maid, who fancies herself as a bit of a detective, is none other than Miss Marple.
Oh. I see you have a scar on your foot, exactly the same as my old master Odysseus. Yes, it is you. I thought it was. Yes. I see that in order to become king once again, you must become a beggar in your own home. Who have anyone like? Oh, well, since you have solved your own mystery, there's not much else for a detective to say, except perhaps, well, Lewis, fancy a pint.
Odysseus now steps forward and takes up the challenge of the bow. The other suitors jeer at the beggar, but as he presses his weight upon the bow, it bends with courteous honour. With graceful ease, the string finds its place. The laughter subsides. He then shoots at the axes. His arrow passes unhindered through the 12 hollows, and on its exit kills the chief suitor. Now is the time, and now is the place. He is Odysseus, husband of Penelope, prepare to die. The remaining suitors threaten carnage. They will make his home an abattoir. Oh, for that moment Odysseus is leeched by fear. And then he hears a voice. Perhaps a god, perhaps somewhere deep inside himself. He says, Odysseus, you're now fighting for the future and the living, not revenge and the dead. With renewed strength, Odysseus takes up his bow. Arrows are shot left and right and left, and one by one. It is the suitors who are carnaged. His house has indeed become an abattoir. Penelope is sent for to meet the victor. No fool, she still has one trick of her own. I'm so sorry, no, you're not Odysseus. Nevertheless, you can sleep in the spare bed.
Oh, Penelope, yes. No, I realize I'm late home, you know. It's only 20 years or so. You should have seen the traffic on the Aston Express, you know. But the thing is, the real reason is, you know, I began my journey. Yes, I began my journey taking the wives of others, so I had to end it fighting for my own. That's not just the reason. That's the whole moral lesson of the Odyssey. But you know, to offer me the spare bed, what's wrong with my own marriage bed that's built into the living tree of life that is the foundation of our very home?
Penelope smiles at this typical husband-like behaviour. Since only her husband could know of the marriage bed, she now embraces her Odysseus. I shall draw a veil over the events that took place in the marriage bed that night. But as dawn rises,
Oh, darlings, no! No, indeed not, I'm back. And because Steve here was just about to announce dawn. And darling little Odysseus and his gorgeous wife Penelope. I haven't been to sleep yet, if you follow my meaning. Yes, they're still at it. So I think we'll delay that dawn of yours a bit longer.
well, who am I to argue with a goddess? So that then is the Odyssey. It's a journey which takes Odysseus from warrior to lover. Athena, she became patron goddess of Athens, giving it its name, and despite her fondness for heroes, Athena always remained a virgin.
And on a Saturday night in Islington, that wasn't always easy.
Of course, according to one tradition, Telemachus went off on little adventures of his own and eventually married Circe.
And we had lots and lots of children.
The children were great. I love the children. What I hated was what I had to do to get them. No, things could have been much, much worse. If only Woody would, but I'm afraid Woody wouldn't. And Nestor, our favourite character, eventually retired.
That's right. I bought a lovely bungalow in Sparta. Just outside Widdecombe.
Long ago, Odysseus journeyed far and wide to find his bliss, only to discover it was here where he left it, at home, in his heart. Playgoers, I take this opportunity to thank you, and I do so on behalf of the entire cast. One quick announcement. According to European law, I have to tell you that no animal was injured or harmed during the making of this production, except the sacrificial ram, which was very, very tasty. Thank you.